Well, welcome to this episode of Wealth Coherence, where we explore the purpose of life and how to live it in a way that's really meaningful and coherent in all aspects of life. And I'll say the other piece is family members that work in a family business encounter having to prove themselves way more than if they had been hired for the same role
Correct.
in another
Correct.
business because of
Correct.
the presumptions that are made about them being part of the family. So you can't deny that fact in the family business, but it's more about how do you treat people as individuals? How do you give them really clear standards for their roles, and just like you would any employee, and that they know what they're being measured against, and then bringing out the best in them. And I'd love to hear just a little bit from you about, your magic as a manager. Like, what were the things that you did? You acknowledged people, you shared what you saw that they were doing well. You let them know that they didn't have to worry that they weren't doing well instead, unless you told them. What were the kind of managerial things that if somebody were getting your book, it would be like, oh, if you're only going to learn one thing out of it, it would be this, or, what would
Well,
you say?
the answer to that question is appreciate. You cannot
Mhm.
overthank people. People think it's first of all, people think that every time I say thank you or a good job, it's like they have to go into their wallet, like it's going to cost them something, which is ridiculous. And then they think, well, I thanked you yesterday for some good work you did, so that should extend for the next couple of weeks, which is
Mhm.
patently stupid. And then the other is that people think, well, if I compliment you on something you did this morning, and then thank you for something you did this afternoon, somehow you're going to be motivated to become a slacker. When in fact, whatever you appreciate, you get more of. So I would say that would be my number one if you had to pin me down. But it's again interesting. You brought up something else that really truly informs my new book. Just went on sale actually, The Power of Employee Well-Being. It's really an argument that it's time to stop talking about engagement because nobody's ever taken it seriously. Everybody just talks about it.
Mhm.
Surveys don't do anything with the surveys. The scores are identical to literally only 30% of Americans, 21% globally are engaged in their jobs. It's the same thing it was when I wrote my book in 2011. And so when I saw that and realized this is ridiculous, why are we talking about it? When well-being demonstrates to be such a simpler and much more effective win-win. Engagement, I don't care if you want me as my employer to be engaged. That doesn't matter to me. But well-being, if you want me to have well-being, I want well-being. So now we're working on the same goal. That's a much more powerful
Mhm.
approach. Oxford research shows that it has a linear relationship to everything good. Literally, weekly profitability. If people are giving you a green light and saying we're good, we're having my well-being is good, you're going to see thriving teams doing exceptional work, driving greater profitability. Gallup and Oxford say 27% higher profitability. So it's not a touchy-feely kind of a thing.
Mm-mm.
So then people go, okay, well, if it's so good, what do we do? And this is one of many things that are in the book that I think really relate to this conversation. I insisted that if you worked for me, that you would be a collaborator. So it would be in the interview. Do you like to be individually recognized, and often you don't even care if the team gets it as long as you're getting it? Are you interested in collaborating and cooperating and looking out for the backs of everybody else? And
Mhm.
those are the people that I wanted to hire. And when I made a mistake and hired the lone wolves, they were massively destructive. It was like literally putting a wolf in the chicken hen because they didn't care about anyone else. They were selfishly taking ideas from everyone else, leveraging them, doing nothing to give back. And there's actually amazing studies which validate this, but I knew to do it intuitively. I don't want people fighting. I want people figuring out things innovatively and then sharing it with everyone else so everybody can succeed. And so my thesis was, I'm not pitting you against everybody else. Like, I'm not evaluating you against them. I'm evaluating you in the context of what you're here to achieve. That's all I'm doing. And so if that's the case, then you shouldn't be threatened by the people you're working with. And so I'm looking for a brotherhood, sisterhood, all for one, one for all. Daniel Coyle wrote a magnificent book where he studied the most successful teams, largely in sports. And it was the unique approach of their coach that had the exact same attitude. He would take them on retreats. He would take them out to dinner, and it would just be camaraderie. It would be just to build connection. And he found, these coaches found, that when people trusted one another and they knew that they were there to help each other win, not individually win, that
Mm-hmm.
teams outperform individuals. And so focusing on team, cohesion, connection is like one of my strongest recommendations. And I'm a big Villanova basketball fan, and the coach that they had for many years, Jay Wright, is a perfect example. He graduated 100% of the students that he had for 4 years over 15 years. So in other words, if you came as a freshman, you graduated, and he won 2 national championships. So the way I look at this, Emily, is it's like mind and heart. He's being coached. He's caring about his students. He's making sure they do their work. He's making sure that they get their work done on time and do it well and get out of school with a degree. But at the same time, he's being very demanding from a coaching standpoint, from a
Mm-hmm.
basketball standpoint. We're going to win. Here's how we're going to do it. These are our disciplines. But the overall thread is that every team he's ever coached is filled with people who look out for one another. And in a family business, I got to believe that that's even more important.
Oh, yeah. It's so essential that you have each other's back, that you all care about the same things. And if you care about something, you know that your family members care about that too. And you're spot on. You just made me think of an interview process that I learned about a while ago, where somebody's there for their interview and they're put in a room to wait for the interview to get started. And while they're sitting there, some people come in and they're like, oh, we need to get some chairs for another meeting that's happening over here. And so they grab some chairs from the room, and some other people come in and grab some chairs. And if the person who's being interviewed is just sitting there waiting for their interview and they never get up to help move the chairs, their interview's over. That was their interview, was did they jump in to help the group that was moving chairs or not? And I just thought, oh, what a simple way to capture what you were just saying. As
I mean, but it's an effective test, right? And so, I mean, there are times where you might find out that they just didn't know those people and they didn't feel comfortable getting up and helping them. So if they gave them a nudge, could you just grab that one chair over there? Then you're welcoming the person in. If they're kind of like they do the one chair and then they sit back down, then you've got the wrong person. But there are other ways
right,
of doing that. Having them meet with the receptionist, somebody who's,
beneath
um,
or
right,
something like, yeah.
beneath them, right, perceptively, and how do
Hmm.
they, let them meet that person first, and then tell them we're going to have you wait for Emily, she's not ready, and see whether they interact with you. So yeah, I've had many times where people who work for me were like, do not hire that person because we couldn't create a bond. And I was like, I'm trusting you. I'm not going to
Hmm.
make that mistake.
Yeah, it's important more than ever, I think, in terms of those social skills. And it is those moments of connecting heart to heart. When you actually spend some time with somebody and you look at them in the eye and you actually take time to engage with them, you let them know that they matter, that their presence matters, and you're engaging with them like authentically. It again, it uplifts both of you, and it actually helps both of your hearts. It helps your coherence
Literally,
internally and then the
literally,
space.
literally. I
Yeah.
mean, this isn't relevant for most of the people listening, but if you don't know people's story, if you don't know how they got where they got to and where they're trying to get to and what's holding them back and what challenges they face in their life, and if you don't care about asking those questions, it's also sort of the dead on arrival. My boss doesn't care, and that's pretty much all I need to know. You know,
Mm.
you have a difficult situation in your life and the boss never asks about it. People think, oh, I don't want to intrude, or they had a death in the family, I don't want to mention it because they might get them down. They don't want you to solve the problem, they just want to acknowledge that, hey, you're
That you
going through
care.
something hard here and I'm here for you. Like, that's all you
Yeah.
need to do. And people have a really hard time with that. I mean, at the end of the day, I fundamentally believe you should not and cannot manage people if you don't love people, if you don't enjoy seeing other people thrive. If it's all about
Mhm.
you, if it's just for your benefit, your bonus, your recognition, your career, promotions, your wealth, if that's why you're in leadership, get out. It's not, you're not the right person. It
Mhm.
has to be about bringing out the best in other people.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think one of the things I've seen a lot in the family businesses I've worked with and the family offices, and also in my own career, is the distinction that happens when people are treated as stakeholders, where their being included matters. And they may not want anything more than just to be informed when something's happening, or they may actually want to know that they can have some input and that their thoughts matter. But taking that time, and it takes some time and it takes some specific focus to invite the people that are, let's say they've been given shares and they're owners of the business, but they don't really have any say in how it's run, to include them and have them feel included when significant changes are happening, or good things, bad things, whatever it might be, and letting them know along the way makes such a difference. And it's really about saying you matter, and we know that you care about this company too, and that we care about you and how you feel about it. And taking that time can take care of so much mischief in the future. If somebody finds out something after the fact and they weren't included, even if it was a good thing, they are going to possibly jump to the worst conclusions. And that's just the way the mind works. And it's such a simple thing to do, but it so often gets missed because we get so focused on the next thing and what the business needs, and we forget about taking care of the relationship and what people care about.
It reminds me of the boss that I had, where he really intellectually, mentally, here understood the benefit of recognition and appreciation. And he had a big team. He was running a very big business. And so he had, like, I'm going to say 15, 16, 17 direct reports, and they were all running big businesses. And so he was spending time going around the room talking about what was happening in each of those businesses and how well people were doing. So he'd go from person one and talk about what he knew, and he had data. Way to go, number one, then number two, number three. And then he got to like number 12, and he looks at his watch and he goes, oh shit, like we're way behind schedule. We don't have any more time for this.
Oh,
And I just was like, so none of that really mattered. This was all, this is all a formality for him. If it wasn't, and it goes to something you said, which is like, we think time is the issue. That's what we have to associate productivity with, is time.
mm-hmm.
Had he taken the time to go around the room and acknowledge all 17 people the way he has started out, he would have had 17 people walking out of that meeting glowing. Instead, he had 5 or 6 going out, the hell with you, right?
Yeah, and going to bat for him and taking on whatever his visions are. Yeah, it's so true. Like, it's so important to take that time and really, and I just go back to that authenticity again, like coming to from that place of authentic care really makes a huge difference. Well, I would love for you to share a little bit about this new book that's coming out, and anything else you've got coming up that would be important for us to know about, or any other last things you'd like to make sure we cover.
It's interesting because I wrote an article in Fast Company last summer, right now, a year ago. And in it, I just said, it's time that we stop pretending that engagement matters, because it's never really mattered except in a few companies. And it's also very cumbersome. There's 12 questions. No one's ever been held accountable. Wall Street doesn't care about engagement. So when push comes to shove, engagement has never been treated seriously. And yet there's millions of consultants out there. There's hundreds of books. We just keep talking about it. I just got emails today where it's like an aggregation of articles that Google sends me, and it's engagement is so important, and it's not, because no one's ever really done anything. The numbers are the same. So my publisher said, this needs to be the basis for your book. Like, you need to include that article in your book. And I'm like, I never thought to do it. But what I'm saying is that it's not about a cumbersome process of whether or not someone's engaged. It's simple, because you can't ever go back and say, well, Emily, your team doesn't seem very highly engaged. And you go, well, how come? Like, what's the reason? And it's like too much time, too much effort, and too much confusion. We never can say, well, okay, so if you fix this one, it's like whack-a-mole. Then the other one becomes a problem, and we never get it better. and no one's ever been held accountable. And so what I'm saying is that
Um,
if we know that simply asking people on a week to week basis, how do you feel overall,
what are you
comprehensively?
doing?
How was your week? And give them like a green emoji, a light green emoji, an orange emoji, a light red, and a bright red, and just, or a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, either way you want to do it, and just simply say, how do you feel? And keep track of that. You have real time ability to calibrate. Oh, okay, where people are like, something not good here. We need to slow down and see what we can do to get people back on track. Are they here all night long? Or are they, is that a special project, or are people feeling burned out? Like, you can ask additional questions in real time. You get the information immediately, and you get it by team, and you get it by manager. So over time, you can say, well, Emily, your team is consistently happy and well-being, and by the way, also productive. Because if you're not productive,
Mhm.
measuring well-being doesn't make any sense if you're not hitting your
Right.
goals. Right? So the assumption is you do both. But if my results are consistently in the red, and I'm hitting my numbers, somebody should be
Mhm.
saying, "Hey, Mark, you can't get results at all costs. You can't be burning out your people or treating them disrespectfully or not respecting them or not caring about them. Let's see what you're doing." And then you can tap in and ask more questions of that team to see what's missing. And you can coach Mark on how to be a better manager and say, this is what your team is saying and you need to fix it. Or
Mhm.
Mark doesn't get to manage anymore. And we've never done that with engagement. And what's so interesting is Gallup has always said every employee deserves a good manager, because 70% of engagement, and I'll attribute it to well-being at the same time, is attributable to the manager. The interaction with the manager. It's not an organizational culture that makes people happy or unhappy. It's how they're being treated day to day by the person who supervises
Mhm.
them, right? So if you're working for someone who's forcing you into grading your well-being as red, 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 angry, 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 you either fix the manager or replace the manager, and instantaneously you're elevating employee well-being. And we know that when people thrive, it goes back to the beginning of this conversation in coherence. When people are experiencing well-being, when they have a disproportion of positivity to negativity, they perform optimally. So why would you want to complicate the whole thing with engagement when you simply have to ask, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about your pay? How do you feel about your vacation time? How do you feel about whatever? And just keep an eye on it and see, okay, this one isn't getting as good of a grade.
Mhm.
Make some slight adjustments to this and make people happier. Why wouldn't you do that? And so that's the book, but the book is really a primer. I met Spencer Johnson, who's the genius behind the 1 Minute Manager and Who Moved
Mhm.
My Cheese. And he said, if you can write a book that gives people powerful information in the least amount of time, you've succeeded. And so it's really, they're short, very well researched chapters that teach managers, here's how you elevate well being. And
Mhm.
so it's on, it just went on sale. You can find it on my website, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any bookstore.
That's so great. What a wonderful contribution. And I think it's well needed. And this whole idea of coherence has a lot to do with kind of inner being well, and then outer with our relationships, our work, well-being. So it's totally in keeping with exactly what we're talking about here. And I'm just so grateful to have this time to talk to you and explore these in some detail. And thank you so much for sharing a bit of your
Me
story with
too.
us
Thank you,
and
Emily. I
your
really appreciate
background.
it. It was lovely.